My friends, there is a power within you greater than any obstacle you will ever face. It is the silent force behind every great achievement in human history. It is not luck. It is not chance. It is faith in action. And the first step to activating that power is to learn to act as if you fear nothing. Now, I am not telling you to become reckless. I am telling you to become unshakable. The difference is clarity of purpose. The one who knows where they are going does not tremble in the face of the storm they walk through it. Fear is a liar. It whispers stories in your ear that you're not ready, that you're not worthy, that you might fail. But hear me clearly. No man, no woman ever rose to greatness without first standing up to fear and saying, "You do not rule me." You were not born with fear. It was learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. The moment you act as if you fear nothing, even if your knees shake and your heart pounds, you begin to train the subconscious mind to obey you, not the other way around. Success does not wait for the timid. It bows to the bold. When opportunity comes knocking, it does not knock twice, and it does not wait for you to feel ready. It asks only one question: will you move in spite of fear? Let me tell you a secret: the world does not care how you feel. It responds to what you do, and when you act with confidence, even if you must pretend at first, the world begins to mirror that back to you. Doors open, people listen, resources align, because confidence commands respect. The greatest leaders, the builders of empires, the creators of fortune, they were not fearless. They were decisive. They acted, and through action, fear fled. You may stumble, you may fall, but each step taken in courage strengthens the muscles of the mind. And one day you will look back and wonder why you ever feared anything at all. So today I challenge you, walk boldly into that meeting, that dream, that decision you've been avoiding. Speak as if the world cannot reject you. Move as if success is certain. Act as if you fear nothing, and fear will begin to vanish from your path. The mind is your master tool. Feed it with courage, and it will build you a life worthy of legend. Thank you. Fear is learned and can be unlearned. This truth is often overlooked, yet it holds the key to unlocking human potential. From the moment we are born, we enter the world free from fear. A baby does not hesitate to cry out for what it needs, to reach for what it wants, or to attempt to walk even after falling time and time again. There is no fear of judgment, failure, or rejection. That fear comes later, taught by experience, reinforced by repetition, and accepted by the mind as truth. But just as it was learned, it can be stripped away through conscious effort and determined practice. Fear is not a physical thing. You cannot hold it in your hand or see it with your eyes. It is an idea, an interpretation of events filtered through the imagination. It exists only in the mind, projected forward from past pain or future uncertainty. And yet, though intangible, it wields immense influence. It paralyzes men who are otherwise intelligent. It silences voices that should be heard, and it robs the world of inventions, speeches, relationships, and revolutions that never come to pass because someone felt afraid. The mind is a powerful machine. It accepts the programming you feed it, whether intentionally or passively. If you tell it, "I am not good enough," it will find reasons to confirm it. If you say, "People like me always fail," it will filter out success and spotlight failure. Over time, these repeated thoughts fueled by fear become beliefs, and beliefs drive behavior. But if a belief can be created by thought, it can be undone by thought. Consider how a child learns to fear the dark. At first, it is nothing, simply the absence of light. But then, perhaps an adult tells a scary story, or perhaps the child trips over a toy and feels pain. Slowly, the mind associates darkness with danger. A pattern forms. A new truth is born. Now, even in safety, the dark becomes frightening. But what happens when the child grows older, shines a flashlight, and sees that nothing is hiding? The fear begins to break. Repetition of truth dissolves illusion. The mind learns a new association, one grounded in reality rather than imagination. This is the process of unlearning fear. It starts with observation. becoming aware that the fear is there, and that it is not a natural part of you, but a foreign voice you've been listening to. Then comes confrontation, the decision to face the thing you fear rather than flee from it. This is not about recklessness, it is about training the mind to respond differently. Each time you face fear and survive, your mind takes note. The next time it resists a little less. Confidence grows not in giant leaps, but in consistent steps. Most people accept fear as a fact. They say, "That's just how I am," and leave it there. But that is like saying, "I once read the wrong instructions, so I'll follow them forever." The mind does not have to be a prison. It can be a place where new beliefs are shaped by fire and choice. Unlearning fear requires repetition. The same way you learned fear through repeated exposure to negative outcomes, you unlearn it through repeated exposure to courageous outcomes. When you take action in spite of fear and succeed or even fail and survive, the mind records that experience as proof that fear is not fatal. The transformation is internal, but the effects are seen externally. You begin to speak more clearly. You make decisions faster. You walk into rooms with a presence you didn't have before. Not because the fear has completely disappeared, but because you no longer obey it. That is the shift. Fear may still whisper, but it no longer commands. Your mind becomes your servant again, not your master. You learn that fear was never the enemy, obedience to fear was. Unlearning fear is not a one-time act. It is a practice, a habit, a discipline. It means catching yourself when old fears rise and choosing not to retreat. It means stepping into the conversation, making the call, asking for the opportunity, saying yes when everything in you wants to say no. It means rewriting the internal narrative from "I can't" to "I will find a way." And over time, this new way of thinking becomes your default. Act boldly, even if confidence must be faked at first. This principle is not about deception, but about discipline. It is a tool used by every person who has ever accomplished something greater than their present condition. Confidence is often misunderstood as something you must feel before you can move. But the truth is that confidence is not a prereq. We sit for action, it is a byproduct of it. If you wait to feel ready, to feel fearless, to feel powerful, you will wait forever. Bold action must come first, even if it feels unnatural, even if it feels like you're pretending. The human mind is impressionable. It learns more from your behavior than from your intentions. When you act with certainty, even if that certainty is feigned, the subconscious mind begins to believe it. It does not care if the confidence is real or rehearsed, it simply responds to what you repeatedly do. If you speak with authority, stand with strength, and move with decision, your mind gradually accepts this behavior as normal. What was once an act becomes authentic. This is how leaders are made. They are not born with courage pulsing through their veins. They grow into it moment by moment, decision by decision, and more often than not, they begin by acting the part. They step onto stages before they feel worthy. They lead teams before they feel qualified. They pitch ideas before they feel fully prepared, and in doing so, they send a message to the subconscious: "I am the kind of person who does bold things." That message, repeated and reinforced, reshapes identity. Faking confidence is not lying to others. It is practicing truth before it is fully formed. It is telling the body and mind, "We are not shrinking today." The more you do this, the less your environment controls you. Most people walk through life reacting to how they feel. If they feel uncertain, they hesitate. If they feel intimidated, they stay quiet. But boldness flips the script. It says, "I will move first, and my feelings can catch up later." This reversal of order is one of the most powerful disciplines you can learn. The world responds to boldness. People trust those who trust themselves. Even if they can't explain it, they are drawn to the energy of someone who walks and speaks with purpose. Opportunities are attracted to boldness the way metal is drawn to a magnet. It is not that bold people are more talented or intelligent, it is that they move *, and movement creates momentum. The person who hesitates gets passed over. The person who acts gets noticed. In moments of uncertainty, boldness becomes the deciding factor. Imagine two individuals with the same ability, the same knowledge, and the same resources. One waits for the perfect time. The other acts as if the time is now. Who wins? Always the one who moves, because movement creates learning, learning creates growth, and growth leads to mastery. Waiting creates only regret. Boldness is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. There is a mental shift that happens when you decide to stop asking permission from others, from circumstances, even from your own doubts. When you act boldly, you are no longer a servant to fear. You become a master of it. You are telling fear you may exist, but you do not decide. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. You recognize that you are more than your emotions, more than your hesitation, more than your momentary discomfort. It is not always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. But comfort is not the goal, growth is. And growth demands that you step outside what is familiar. It demands that you risk being seen before you feel polished. It demands that you show up when your voice still trembles. Every time you do this, the trembling fades. Every time you fake confidence and follow through, you carve a new groove in the mind, one that leads to resilience, certainty, and poise. There will be moments when your inner voice says you're not ready. In those moments, remember this principle. You do not need to feel bold to act bold. The act itself is what creates the feeling. The more you step forward in spite of doubt, the less power that doubt holds. Eventually, what began as an act becomes instinct. The mask of confidence becomes your true face, and the world begins to reflect back the power you've claimed through action. Success responds to action, not emotion. This truth separates the dreamers from the doers, the hopeful from the accomplished. Too many people wait for the right feeling to arrive before they begin to move. They wait to feel motivated, confident, inspired, or ready. But the world does not reward feelings, it rewards effort. It responds to decisions, to movement, to bold and deliberate steps taken in the face of uncertainty. You can feel uncertain and still succeed. You can feel afraid and still win, because action is what moves the needle, not the emotions you carry along the way. Emotions are fluid. They rise and fall with circumstances, sleep, food, the weather, and the opinions of others. If you let emotions decide your level of productivity or your commitment to a goal, your progress will be inconsistent at best. You will be high one day, low the next, and eventually lose trust in your ability to follow through. But action-consistent, disciplined action creates a new standard. It says, no matter how I feel today, I will do what needs to be done. That is where real power lies, not in the absence of emotion, but in the refusal to let it dictate your path. Every major achievement began with an action, not a feeling. The first book was written not because the author felt like writing, but because they sat down and began. The first business was launched not because the founder felt fearless, but because they acted while still unsure. Success is mechanical. It follows laws, not moods. Plant seeds, water them, tend the soil, and the harvest comes. It doesn't matter if the farmer feels like working, that day nature responds to work, not emotions. This principle explains why so many talented people remain stuck. They wait for inspiration to strike. They believe their emotional state must align perfectly before they can create, build, or lead. But inspiration often follows action, not the other way around. When you start moving, even imperfectly, you build momentum. That momentum creates energy, clarity, and drive. The emotion they were waiting for shows up asterisk after asterisk. The work begins, not before. This is the great paradox of progress. Start when you don't feel like it, and soon you will. Success requires that you act even when you don't see the full path. It requires that you trust effort over emotion. Emotions are not evil. They are part of the human experience, but they are not reliable guides for long-term success. Use them as signals, not masters. Recognize how you feel, but choose action anyway. That choice, repeated daily, builds discipline, and discipline is stronger than emotion. Discipline keeps going when feelings fade. It keeps moving when inspiration dries up. It builds habits that carry you through days when nothing seems to work. Action also builds evidence. When you take consistent action, you create results. Results become proof that your efforts matter. This proof builds confidence. Confidence fuels more action, and the cycle repeats. But the opposite is also true. If you wait for emotion, you delay action. If you delay action, you see no results. Without results, doubt increases. Doubt kills motivation, and the cycle becomes one of stagnation and regret. That is why action must lead, and emotion must follow. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is rarely intelligence or talent. It is persistence in action. It is the willingness to do the work whether they feel like it or not. Champions train when no one is watching. Artists create when the muse is silent. Entrepreneurs build when the market is uncertain. They all share one trait: they act, not because they always feel good, but because they understand the power of showing up. There will always be emotional reasons to stop. Fear, fatigue, doubt, disappointment, they all present convincing arguments. But none of them hold weight against the truth of action. One step forward has more power than 1,000 thoughts about stepping forward. One small task completed beats hours of anxious planning. When you take action, you anchor yourself in reality. You engage with life instead of sitting on the sidelines of thought. You create motion, and motion is the root of all progress. Success is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in the quiet hours of routine. It is built when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when the work is tedious and the reward is distant. But still you move, still you act, and in time the results come not because of how you felt, but because of what you did. Courage trains the subconscious to follow your lead. The mind, though powerful, is not naturally in control, it is programmable. It reacts to what you repeatedly do, what you consistently think, and how you respond in key moments of decision. When you choose courage in the face of fear, your subconscious mind registers that choice and begins to adjust its baseline. The subconscious is always listening, always watching, always learning. It doesn't learn from what you intend to do or what you hope will happen. It learns from what you actually do. Every time you act courageously, even in small ways, you are giving your subconscious a new message about who you are and what you are capable of. The subconscious mind governs the vast majority of your behavior. It runs habits, responses, emotions, beliefs, and decisions. But it does not distinguish between a helpful belief and a limiting one. If you tell it through repeated actions that you avoid risk, back down from conflict, or hesitate when faced with challenge, it encodes that as normal behavior and begins to automate it. Soon, you find yourself repeating those patterns automatically, not because you consciously chose them, but because your subconscious has adopted them as your identity. The only way to override that programming is through repeated, intentional acts of courage. Courage in this context does not mean the absence of fear. It means movement in spite of fear. It is the deliberate choice to confront discomfort and step into uncertainty. When you do this, when you make that phone call, give that presentation, ask for that opportunity, or take that step you've been avoiding, you send a signal to your subconscious. This is how we operate now. That single action may not feel life changing in the moment, but it is an entry into a new pattern, and patterns are what the subconscious remembers. This process does not happen overnight. The subconscious mind does not shift because of one bold decision. It shifts through repetition. Just as it learned timidity and hesitation through repeated exposure to fear and failure, it learns courage through repeated demonstrations of boldness. You must teach it, moment by moment, what kind of person you intend to become. You must show it, through your behavior, that your decisions are no longer controlled by comfort or anxiety, but by purpose and direction. Every act of courage is a vote for a new identity. It builds evidence in your internal system that you are capable, decisive, and strong. The more you collect that evidence, the more natural courage becomes. At first, it may feel forced. You may have to push yourself into action, override resistance, and fight against old beliefs. But with consistency, that resistance weakens. The subconscious begins to cooperate. It starts to anticipate courage instead of fear. It starts to default to strength instead of hesitation. This is the reason why some people appear naturally confident. It's not that they were born without fear, it's that they trained their subconscious through repeated exposure to courageous behavior. They took action again and again until the mind adapted, until boldness became familiar and fear became secondary. You can do the same, but it begins with the willingness to act when it's uncomfortable, to move when it feels unnatural, and to persist when there's no immediate reward. The subconscious is also influenced by visualization, but visualization alone is not enough. It must be paired with action. Seeing yourself succeed is powerful, but asterisk being asterisk, the person who acts is what rewires the system. Courage is the bridge between who you are and who you could be. It is the tool that allows you to instruct your subconscious to serve your highest goals rather than your deepest fears. Each courageous act has compound effects. It doesn't just influence the immediate outcome, it reshapes how you see yourself. It reshapes your posture, your tone, your presence, and your willingness to take future risks. The courage to speak up once leads to the courage to lead. The courage to start something small leads to the courage to build something big. And all of it begins with a decision not to wait for fear to vanish, but to lead your mind by example. The most powerful form of mental training is behavioral. What you do teaches the mind what to expect. If you consistently choose courage, the subconscious begins to expect strength, to anticipate action, to prepare for success. It stops resisting boldness and starts supporting it. It begins to believe that courage is your normal way of operating. Opportunity favors the decisive, not the ready. The world rarely waits for perfect preparation. It rewards those who move when the moment presents itself, even if they are still figuring things out as they go. Being ready is a comfortable illusion, one that convinces people to delay action in the name of caution. But those who achieve the most do not wait until they feel fully prepared. They recognize that decisive action is often the very thing that asterisk creates asterisk readiness. Movement breeds clarity. Action reveals what books and thinking cannot. Life opens its doors to those who knock, not to those who wait quietly outside, rehearsing their lines. There is a cost to hesitation. Opportunities are time-sensitive. They appear often without warning and disappear just as quickly. While one person is analyzing the risks, weighing every option, and wondering if they're good enough, another person steps forward and claims the reward. The decisive do not pretend to have all the answers. They simply understand that many of those answers only reveal themselves asterisk after asterisk the decision is made. The road ahead is built by walking, not by waiting for a perfect map. Most people believe that if they just had more time, more training, more confidence, then they could succeed. But that belief is often a mask for fear. It is easier to prepare forever than it is to risk failure. Yet those who win understand that success is not reserved for the most prepared. It is granted to those who act with intent and adjust along the way. The path is made straight through motion. The mind sharpens through use. The character grows under pressure. Readiness is not a precondition, it is a result. Opportunity rarely announces itself in neat, comfortable packages. It comes disguised as problems, disguised as risks, disguised as things you don't feel fully equipped to handle. And this is where decisiveness becomes power. To the hesitant, these moments look like danger. To the bold, they look like doors. The person who decides to walk through those doors even trembling, even unsure, is the one who gains access to what others never see. They are not better, they are just willing to move. The decisive are not reckless. They are simply aware that perfect certainty is a myth. No one ever truly knows how a plan will unfold. No one can see every variable, control every factor, or predict every outcome. But indecision is itself a decision to remain stagnant, to give up control, and to let time or others choose your future. When you hesitate, someone else moves. When you pause too long, the chance fades. You must teach yourself to decide quickly, to trust your instinct, to move when your inner voice says move, even if your mind hasn't fully caught up. Progress belongs to those who act, not because they are lucky or gifted, but because they understand that hesitation kills momentum. Every second spent doubting is a second lost. Every delay creates space for fear to grow. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to act. The longer you question, the more reasons you'll find not to move. Decisiveness breaks this cycle. It creates urgency. It sends a signal to your subconscious and to the world. I am ready enough, and I will not wait. There is no such thing as a perfect starting point. Waiting for the ideal conditions is like waiting for the wind to carry your ship to success. The decisive man sets his sails and adapts to the wind he has. He may have to adjust course, he may hit resistance, but he moves forward while others drift. And it is in that movement that he finds growth, feedback, correction, and ultimately results. People admire those who act. Clients, teams, investors, and partners all respond to individuals who make decisions quickly and stand behind them. Even when the choice isn't perfect, action builds confidence in others. Decisiveness creates gravity. It pulls people in, inspires motion, and gives direction. The world will follow someone who moves with intent before it will follow someone who thinks without end. Great opportunities don't always come when you feel strong or qualified. They arrive in the middle of your doubts, your mistakes, your imperfect preparation. The question is not whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing to decide. Those who wait often spend their lives watching others live the dreams they never step toward. Those who decide carve out a place for themselves not because they were the best prepared, but because they were the first to move. Fear loses its power when you challenge it directly. It thrives in the mind, feeds on avoidance, and multiplies through inaction. The moment you face it, it begins to shrink. It relies on your cooperation, on your willingness to believe its stories and obey its limits. But fear, no matter how loud, is rarely based on truth. It is a prediction, not a fact, a mental projection of what could go wrong. When you confront it, you prove to your own mind that those imagined disasters have no weight unless you grant them power through your attention and obedience. Most people live within boundaries drawn by fear. They stay in the same job, the same routine, the same silence, because they have accepted fear as a protector rather than the jailer it truly is. But safety is not always a virtue when it prevents you from growth. The comfort zone may feel warm, but it is also the breeding ground of regret. What you don't confront begins to control you. What you refuse to face becomes the ruler of your decisions. And in that state, fear is not just an emotion, it becomes an architect, designing a life smaller than what you were meant to live. Challenging fear doesn't mean you eliminate it. It means you stop running from it. You turn and look it in the eye. You ask, what's the worst that can happen? And realize that most fears dissolve under inspection. They are not made of steel, they are made of shadows. A conversation you've been avoiding, a goal you've been postponing, a step you've been dreading, these are not immovable walls. They are doors, locked only by your refusal to knock. And once you knock, once you move, you realize the fear was a trick of the mind. It had power only when you played small. The process of challenging fear must be deliberate. It cannot be casual. The mind will always choose what feels safe. It is designed to preserve, not to expand. That is why you must override it with will. You must move toward the things you resist. When the voice in your head says, you can't do this, that is not a signal to stop. It is a signpost that says, this is where the treasure is hidden. Fear guards what matters. It stands between you and the life you are capable of living. It hides your potential behind imaginary dangers. Small victories against fear build strength. You don't have to conquer it all at once. Each time you speak when silence feels safer. Each time you try something new when failure seems likely. Each time you step forward when comfort invites you to stay, you build evidence. You teach your nervous system that survival does not require shrinking. You prove that discomfort is not death, and over time, fear loses its authority. It may still show up, but it no longer commands your decisions. You hear it, but you don't obey. Courage is a muscle. Like all muscles, it grows through resistance. The heavier the weight, the stronger the growth, and fear is that weight. When you lift it, when you bear its pressure and move anyway, you develop a kind of inner power that can't be faked. That power is not loud or boastful, it is calm, certain, and deeply rooted. It comes from experience, from a track record of standing firm when everything in you wanted to retreat. You become someone who does hard things not because you're fearless, but because you've trained through repetition to stop listening to fear's advice. People often look for a way to eliminate fear, but the truth is, fear is part of the process. It is the cost of ambition, the price of stepping into the unknown. Instead of trying to remove it, learn to carry it. Let it come with you, but never let it steer. Every time you act in spite of fear, you become less susceptible to its influence. It becomes background noise instead of a blaring siren. You begin to recognize its voice not as a warning, but as a signal that you are on the edge of something meaningful. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It tells you to wait for the right time, to prepare more, to hold back until you're certain. But that voice is not wisdom, it's self-preservation dressed in rational language. True wisdom acknowledges risk, but refuses to be ruled by it. It understands that a life without risk is also a life without growth, without breakthroughs, without the thrill of discovering what lies beyond the edge of comfort. When you live in constant negotiation with fear, you live in constant limitation. But when you confront it head on, you take back control. You reclaim your energy, your choices, and your potential. Fear loses its grip the moment you decide it no longer speaks the final word.